The autumn mist clung to the streets of Willow Creek, a small town nestled in the rolling hills of central Pennsylvania, as 16-year-old Mia Carter stepped through the heavy glass doors of Willow Creek High. Her sneakers squeaked faintly against the polished linoleum, the sound swallowed by the hum of early morning chatter echoing through the crowded hallways. She kept her head low, her chestnut hair tucked into a loose ponytail, her faded denim jacket blending into the sea of backpacks and Letterman jackets. To anyone watching, she was just another new face, unremarkable in her quiet stride and plain attire. Her family had relocated from Pittsburgh after her father secured a job at the local community college, marking her third move in 4 years. Each new school had taught her the same lesson: stay invisible, avoid trouble, and wait for the world to move on. But beneath her unassuming exterior burned a secret that would have silenced the hallway's noise in an instant. Mia was a state-level junior kickboxing champion, trained for 5 years in one of Pittsburgh's toughest gyms, her reflexes honed to a razor's edge, her right cross capable of flooring opponents twice her size. Her first day unfolded with the predictable rhythm of a new school. Teachers mispronounced her name during roll call, classmates stole curious glances, and the labyrinth of hallways left her scrambling to find her classes. She navigated it all with a practiced detachment, her hazel eyes scanning her surroundings without lingering too long on any one face. By lunchtime, she found refuge at an empty table in the corner of the cafeteria, her tray holding a modest sandwich and an apple. The room buzzed with laughter and clicks, but Mia focused on her food, hoping to slip through the hour unnoticed. That hope shattered when a shadow fell across her table. A tall, broad-shouldered boy with cropped blonde hair and a cocky grin slid into the seat across from her, flanked by 2 others. The leader, Nate Sullivan, was a senior and the undisputed king of Willow Creek High's social hierarchy, his family's wealth and his role as the football team's star linebacker cementing his authority. His companions, a wiry boy named Luke and a lanky one called Ryan, leaned in with matching smirks, their presence drawing curious eyes from nearby tables. Nate's gaze sized Mia up, his confidence radiating like heat from asphalt. He introduced himself with a casual arrogance, implying that his name alone should mean something to her. Mia offered her name in return, her voice soft but steady, her eyes briefly meeting his before returning to her sandwich. The exchange should have ended there, but Nate pressed further, probing about her past in Pittsburgh, his tone laced with a challenge. Luke chimed in, mocking the idea of a city girl thinking she could fit into their tight-knit town. Mia's responses remained brief, her demeanor calm, but a familiar tension coiled in her chest. She recognized their type, bullies who thrived on testing boundaries, searching for weakness. Nate leaned closer, his voice dropping to a patronizing drawl as he outlined the unspoken rules of Willow Creek High. Newcomers, he explained, needed to show respect, and respect came with a price. $5 a day, he suggested, for his protection. The implication was clear: pay or face the consequences. Mia's fingers tightened around her apple, her knuckles paling slightly. She felt the weight of every eye in the cafeteria, the air thick with anticipation. Years of training had taught her to read a room, to sense when a situation teetered on the edge of escalation. She could have ended it right there. A single, precise strike would have sent Nate sprawling. But her father's voice echoed in her mind, his plea for a fresh start ringing clear. They had agreed to keep her fighting skills hidden, to let Willow Creek be a chance for normalcy. So instead of reacting, Mia rose from her seat, her movements deliberate, and excused herself with a quiet promise to think it over. Nate's laughter followed her as she left, his parting words a warning not to test his patience. She felt the sting of humiliation, but buried it deep, her resolve hardening with every step. That evening, Mia walked home through Willow Creek's quiet streets, the crisp air cooling her flushed cheeks. The town's charm, its tree-lined avenues and quaint storefronts, felt at odds with the day's events. At home, her father, Daniel Carter, greeted her with his usual warmth, asking about her day over a dinner of roasted chicken and mashed potatoes. Mia shrugged off his questions with vague assurances, her smile masking the turmoil beneath. Daniel, a literature professor with a knack for reading people, sensed her unease but didn't press. He trusted Mia to handle her own battles, though he worried about the toll of their frequent moves. Later, in her room, Mia lay awake, staring at the ceiling's faint cracks. Nate's smirk haunted her thoughts, his confidence a mirror of every bully she had faced before. In Pittsburgh, her reputation as a fighter had kept such threats at bay, but here she was a blank slate, vulnerable in her anonymity. The next morning, Mia braced herself as she entered the school, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Nate and his crew were waiting near her locker, their presence a deliberate show of power. He repeated his demand for payment, his tone sharper now, his patience visibly thinning. Mia met his gaze, her voice firm as she refused. The air crackled with tension, Nate's expression shifting from amusement to irritation. He warned her that defiance came with consequences, his words carrying the weight of a promise. Mia held her ground, her heart pounding, but her face betraying nothing. As Nate walked away, his laughter cold and deliberate, Mia knew she had crossed a line. The rest of the day confirmed her fears. Luke accidentally bumped her in the hallway, sending her books scattering across the floor. Ryan tripped her during gym class, his snicker barely concealed. By lunchtime, the cafeteria incident escalated further. Nate approached her table, this time with half the football team in tow, and upended her tray, sending soup splashing across her jeans. The room erupted in laughter, phones flashing as students recorded the spectacle. Mia sat frozen, the hot liquid seeping through her clothes, her pulse roaring in her ears. Every instinct screamed for her to act, to unleash the skills she had spent years perfecting. But she remembered her father's words, the promise of a new beginning. She stood slowly, her movements controlled, and left the cafeteria without a word, the laughter trailing behind her. In the bathroom, she scrubbed at the stains, her hands trembling not from fear, but from the effort to restrain her anger. She pulled out her phone and hesitated before dialing her old coach in Pittsburgh, a gruff but kind man named Coach Harris. She recounted the situation, her voice steady despite the storm inside. Harris listened patiently, his silence heavy with understanding. He reminded her of the lessons she had learned in his gym. Strength was not just in fighting, but in choosing when to fight. He advised her to protect herself if pushed too far, but to do so wisely, away from prying eyes and without causing lasting harm. Mia spent the rest of the day in a haze, her mind wrestling with her options. Paying Nate was unthinkable, it would only embolden him, and the cost would grow beyond money. Ignoring him had already proven dangerous. By the final bell, her decision crystallized. She lingered in the school library, pretending to study, her eyes tracking the clock. She knew Nate stayed late for football practice, often leaving alone after his teammates dispersed. As the school emptied, Mia slipped outside, her breath visible in the chilly air. The parking lot was nearly deserted, save for a few teachers' cars and the distant hum of a janitor's vacuum. She positioned herself near the gym's exit, her heart steady now, her body relaxed but ready. When Nate emerged, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder, Mia stepped into his path. He paused, his smirk returning as he recognized her. She spoke first, her voice calm, proposing a deal. One fight, just the two of them, right there in the empty lot. If he won, she would pay double his demanded fee and follow his rules. If she won, he would back off for good and apologize publicly for the cafeteria incident. Nate's laughter rang out, sharp and disbelieving. He towered over her, his 6-foot frame dwarfing her slight build, his years of football training making him confident in his dominance. He accepted her challenge, tossing his bag aside and rolling his shoulders, his stance casual but predatory. They moved to the center of the lot, the asphalt cold and unforgiving beneath their feet. Nate shed his jacket, revealing a physique sculpted by years of weights and drills. Mia removed her denim jacket, her plain t-shirt doing little to hide her slender frame. To Nate, she looked fragile, an easy target. He lunged first, his fist aimed at her jaw, the strike fueled by arrogance and anger. Mia's training took over. She sidestepped smoothly, her body flowing like water, her left arm deflecting his punch with practiced ease. In the same motion, her right fist snapped forward, connecting with his midsection just below his ribs. The impact was precise, a controlled explosion of force that drove the air from Nate's lungs. He doubled over, gasping, his knees buckling as he sank to the ground. Mia stood over him, her breathing even, her expression unreadable. Nate's shock was palpable, his worldview shattered in a single blow. He tried to speak, his voice a ragged whisper, but Mia cut him off. She explained, her tone matter-of-fact, that she had trained for years in kickboxing, that she was a champion in her weight class, that the strike he felt was a fraction of her true strength. She had no desire to hurt him, she said, only to end his harassment. She offered him a choice: honor their deal, or face the consequences of her going public with what had just happened. Nate, still clutching his stomach, nodded weakly, his pride in tatters. Mia turned and walked away, leaving Nate alone in the darkening lot. She felt no triumph, only a quiet resolve. The fight had been necessary, but it was only the beginning. She knew the school would never be the same, that word of Nate's defeat would spread, that her secret was no longer hers alone. As she reached the edge of the lot, she glanced back, seeing Nate struggle to his feet. For the first time in years, Mia felt the weight of her true self, not as a burden, but as a strength she could no longer hide. The morning after Mia Carter's confrontation with Nate Sullivan, Willow Creek High buzzed with a different energy. Students crowded the hallways, their whispers trailing Mia like ripples in a pond. No one knew exactly what had happened in the empty parking lot, but Nate's subdued demeanor as he slunk into school spoke volumes. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by a hunched posture and a refusal to meet anyone's eyes. Mia, however, walked with her head held a fraction higher, her denim jacket draped over her shoulders, her steps measured but confident. She felt the weight of curious glances but ignored them, focusing on the rhythm of her day: locker, homeroom, first period. Yet beneath her calm exterior, a quiet tension simmered. She knew the school's social order had shifted, and with it came new uncertainties. By mid-morning, the rumors had taken shape. Some said Mia had humiliated Nate in a fight. Others claimed she had some kind of secret training. The football team, loyal to their star linebacker, eyed her warily in the corridors, their loyalty torn between Nate's authority and the unsettling possibility that a slight, quiet girl had bested him. Mia sensed their hostility but kept her distance, her years of training teaching her to avoid unnecessary conflicts. In the cafeteria at lunch, she chose her usual corner table, expecting solitude. Instead, a group of girls approached, led by Sophie Reed, a junior with a cascade of auburn hair and a reputation as the school's social queen. Sophie's expression was cautious but curious, her friends trailing behind with nervous energy. They wanted to know the truth about Nate, about what had happened after football practice. Mia offered no details, her responses vague but polite, her hazel eyes deflecting their probing. Sophie, undeterred, invited Mia to join them at their table, a gesture that drew gasps from nearby students. Mia declined, citing homework, but the invitation lingered in her mind, a crack in the wall of her self-imposed isolation. The rest of the week tested Mia's resolve. Nate honored their agreement, avoiding her entirely, but his friends, Luke and Ryan, doubled down on their antagonism. In chemistry class, Luke accidentally spilled a beaker of water across Mia's notes, his smirk daring her to react. During gym, Ryan lobbed a volleyball at her with unnecessary force, the ball grazing her shoulder. Mia absorbed each provocation with a clenched jaw, her discipline holding firm. She knew retaliating openly would only escalate things, drawing more attention to her skills. Instead, she channeled her frustration into her after-school routine, slipping away to a secluded park on the edge of Willow Creek. There, beneath the sprawling oaks, she practiced her kicks and punches, her movements fluid and precise, the crisp air absorbing the sound of her exertion. Each strike was a release, a reminder of the strength she carried within. At home, Mia's father, Daniel, noticed the subtle changes in her demeanor, the way her shoulders tensed when she spoke about school, the faint shadows beneath her eyes. Over dinner one evening, he gently probed, asking about her classmates, her teachers. Mia deflected with half-truths, assuring him things were fine, But Daniel's intuition told him otherwise. He remembered the fierce, determined girl who had thrived in Pittsburgh's kickboxing gym, and he worried that Willow Creek's small-town dynamics were stifling her spirit. That night, Mia lay awake, her thoughts circling back to her conversation with Coach Harris. His words about choosing battles wisely echoed in her mind, but so did his reminder that strength sometimes demanded action. She resolved to endure for now, but only until the moment called for something more. The following Monday, the tension broke. Mia arrived at school to find her locker defaced, the word freak scrawled in black marker across the metal. A crowd of students lingered nearby, their whispers a mix of shock and amusement. Mia's stomach twisted, but she kept her expression neutral, wiping the marker away with a tissue from her backpack. The incident set the tone for the day. In the hallways, Luke and Ryan escalated their harassment, shoving past her with deliberate force, their laughter trailing like a taunt. By lunchtime, Mia's patience was fraying. She sat at her corner table, her tray untouched, when Nate approached, alone this time, his face unreadable. The cafeteria fell silent, every eye trained on them. Nate's presence was a violation of their deal, and Mia's muscles tensed, ready for whatever came next. To her surprise, he offered no threat. Instead, he acknowledged his friend's behavior, his tone low and halting, and promised to rein them in. He left without waiting for a response, the cafeteria erupting into murmurs as he retreated. Mia's relief was short-lived. That afternoon, during a free period, she overheard Luke and Ryan plotting in a quiet stairwell. They planned to ambush her after school, cornering her near the bus stop to teach her a lesson. Their voices dripped with resentment, fueled by Nate's apparent betrayal and their need to reassert control. Mia's pulse quickened, but her mind remained clear. She knew she couldn't avoid this confrontation, not without inviting worse. After the final bell, she lingered in the library, her eyes scanning a book she wasn't reading, her senses attuned to the emptying school. When the clock neared 4, she slipped out, her backpack light on her shoulders, her body primed for action. The bus stop was a short walk from campus, a concrete slab bordered by a chain-link fence and a row of scraggly bushes. Mia arrived first, her stance casual but alert, her eyes scanning the street. Luke and Ryan appeared minutes later, their steps purposeful, their grins predatory. They wasted no time, circling her like wolves, their taunts laced with venom. Luke lunged first, his fist aimed at her shoulder, but Mia was ready. She pivoted, her left arm blocking his strike, her right elbow snapping into his ribs with controlled force. Luke staggered back, gasping, his bravado crumbling. Ryan hesitated, his confidence shaken, but charged anyway, his arms flailing in a clumsy grab. Mia ducked beneath his reach, her knee driving into his thigh, dropping him to the ground with a grunt. The fight lasted less than 10 seconds. Both boys sprawled on the pavement, their egos bruised more than their bodies. Mia stood over them, her breathing steady, her expression calm but unyielding. She warned them to stop, her voice low, the threat implicit in her stance. Luke and Ryan scrambled to their feet, their faces a mix of fear and humiliation, and fled without looking back. Mia watched them go, her heart pounding not from exertion, but from the realization that her secret was unraveling. She had acted appeal. Of necessity, but the consequences would ripple through the school. As she walked home, the setting sun casting long shadows across Willow Creek streets, she felt a strange mix of relief and dread. She had defended herself, but at what cost? The next day, the school was a tinderbox. Word of the bus stop incident had spread, distorted by each retelling. Some students called Mia a hero, others whispered she was dangerous. The football team's hostility grew, their loyalty to Luke and Ryan outweighing Nate's quiet acquiescence. In the cafeteria, Sophie Reed approached again, this time with a quieter group of girls, their eyes wide with awe. They thanked Mia for standing up to Luke and Ryan, revealing their own experiences with the boys' harassment. Sophie admitted they had been too scared to speak out, but Mia's actions gave them hope. Mia listened, her guard softening, and agreed to sit with them, a small step toward connection. That afternoon, Mia was called to the principal's office. Mr. Hargrove, a stern man with graying hair and a no-nonsense demeanor, had heard about the bus stop altercation. He questioned Mia firmly, his tone implying she was at fault. Mia explained calmly, describing Luke and Ryan's harassment and her need to defend herself. Hargrove's skepticism was palpable, but he lacked evidence to punish her, especially since Luke and Ryan denied everything. He issued a warning to stay out of trouble and sent her back to class. Mia left the office with a sinking feeling, knowing the principal's bias toward the football team would complicate things further. At home, Mia finally confided in her father. Over a quiet dinner, she recounted the past weeks, the cafeteria humiliation, the locker vandalism, the bus stop fight. Daniel listened, his face etched with concern but also pride. He reminded her of the girl he had watched grow in Pittsburgh's gym, a fighter who never backed down but always fought smart. He supported her decision to defend herself, but urged her to be cautious, warning that small towns like Willow Creek guarded their hierarchies fiercely. Mia nodded, grateful for his understanding, but the weight of her choices pressed heavier than ever. The following weeks brought a fragile equilibrium. Nate, Luke, and Ryan kept their distance, their influence diminished but not gone. Mia's reputation grew, a double-edged sword that earned her both allies and enemies. Sophie and her friends became a steady presence, their laughter a balm against the school's undercurrents of tension. Mia began teaching Sophie some basic self-defense moves behind the gym after school, her lessons simple but effective: how to break a grip, how to stand tall. The sessions drew other girls, their numbers growing until Mia was leading an informal group of 10. She taught with patience, her voice steady, her movements precise, instilling confidence in girls who had never felt strong before. But the peace was temporary. One Friday, Mia noticed a new face in the hallways, a tall, wiry boy with a shaved head and a cold stare. His name was Dylan Pierce, a transfer student from a neighboring town with a reputation for trouble. He gravitated toward the football team, filling the void left by Nate's retreat. By the end of the day, Dylan had singled Mia out, his gaze lingering too long, his smirk a silent challenge. In the cafeteria, he approached her table, his presence drawing every eye. He didn't speak, but his message was clear. He saw her as a threat, and he intended to test her. Mia met his stare, her heart steady, her instincts telling her this was only the beginning. As she walked home that evening, the autumn leaves crunching beneath her feet, Mia felt the familiar coil of anticipation. Dylan was different from Nate, a predator, not a posturer. She knew he wouldn't stop at taunts or pranks. Her training had prepared her for moments like this, but Willow Creek was teaching her something new. Strength wasn't just in fighting, but in building something worth fighting for. Sophie's laughter, the girl's growing confidence, her father's quiet pride, these were her anchors. Whatever came next, Mia was ready to face it, not as the invisible newcomer, but as the girl she had always been. The air in Willow Creek grew colder as November settled over the town, the trees shedding their last leaves in a quiet surrender to winter. Mia Carter felt the shift in more than just the weather. The incident at the bus stop had cemented her reputation at Willow Creek High, but it also cast a long shadow. Students no longer saw her as the quiet newcomer. She was a force, a mystery, someone to be admired or feared. The whispers followed her through the hallways, a mix of awe and unease, as if her presence alone disrupted the school's fragile balance. Mia carried the weight of their stares with a calm exterior, her hazel eyes scanning the crowds without lingering. Inside, however, she wrestled with a growing sense of responsibility. Her actions had ripple effects, and she knew Dylan Pierce, the new transfer student, was watching, waiting for his moment to challenge her. Dylan's presence was a storm cloud on the horizon. Unlike Nate, whose arrogance stemmed from entitlement, Dylan carried a sharper edge, his cold stare and calculated movements hinting at a past Mia could only guess at. He aligned himself with the football team's fringes, filling the void left by Luke and Ryan's retreat. In the cafeteria, he sat with them, his laughter loud but his eyes always drifting to Mia. She felt his scrutiny like a blade against her skin, a silent promise of trouble. During gym class, he lingered nearby, his throws in dodgeball carrying a deliberate force, though never quite aimed at her. Mia's instincts, honed by years in the ring, told her he was testing her, probing for weakness. She kept her distance, her movements precise, her focus sharp. She had no desire to fight again, but she prepared herself mentally, running through techniques in her mind as she walked the school's halls. Sophie Reed and her group of friends became Mia's unexpected allies. Their gratitude for her stand at the bus stop evolved into genuine friendship, their laughter filling the gaps in Mia's guarded world. After school, the self-defense sessions behind the gym grew, drawing not just girls but a few boys, curious and eager to learn. Mia taught them with a quiet intensity, her lessons rooted in control. How to redirect an attacker's force, how to escape a hold, how to stand tall without escalating. The group swelled to 15, their trust in Mia palpable, their confidence blooming with each session. Sophie, in particular, absorbed every move, her auburn hair bouncing as she practiced blocks and strikes. Mia saw herself in Sophie's determination, a reminder of the scared girl she had been before Pittsburgh's gym gave her purpose. At home, Mia's father, Daniel, sensed the undercurrents of her new life. Over dinner, he asked gentle questions, his professor's intuition catching the strain in her voice. Mia shared more now, admitting to the self-defense group and the school's shifting dynamics. Daniel listened, his pride tempered by worry. He reminded her that strength was a gift but also a burden, one that required wisdom to wield. Mia nodded, her thoughts drifting to Dylan. She knew he wouldn't wait forever, and the anticipation gnawed at her. That night she called Coach Harris again, seeking his steady counsel. His advice was the same: fight only when necessary, but never let fear dictate her choices. Mia hung up with a renewed sense of clarity, her path forward uncertain but resolute. The confrontation came on a gray Tuesday afternoon, the sky heavy with the threat of snow. Mia stayed late, helping Sophie with a history project in the library. As they left, the school was nearly empty, the corridors echoing with the hum of a distant janitor's mop. Outside, Dylan waited near the bike racks, his wiry frame leaning against a post, his shaved head gleaming under the streetlights. Luke and Ryan flanked him, their faces a mix of resentment and eagerness. Mia's pulse quickened, but her training kept her calm. Sophie tensed beside her, her breath catching, but Mia's steady hand on her arm signaled calm. The boys approached, Dylan leading with a predator's stride, his smirk cold and deliberate. He wasted no time, his words a taunt about her reputation, a challenge to prove herself. Mia stood her ground, her body relaxed but ready, her eyes locked on Dylan's. The fight was inevitable. Dylan lunged first, his movements faster than Nate's, his fist aimed at Mia's chest. She sidestepped, her reflexes automatic, her left arm deflecting his strike. Her counter was swift, a sharp jab to his midsection, precise enough to stun but not injure. Dylan staggered, his breath hitching, but he recovered quickly, his anger flaring. Luke and Ryan hesitated, their confidence shaken by Mia's speed. She used their pause, pivoting to face Dylan again, her stance low and balanced. He charged, aiming a wild swing at her shoulder. Mia ducked, her right knee driving into his thigh, dropping him to one knee. Luke moved to intervene, but Mia's glare froze him in place, her presence commanding the space. Ryan backed off entirely, his hands raised in surrender. Dylan rose, his face flushed with fury, but Mia's calm unnerved him. She stepped back, giving him a chance to retreat, her message clear. This didn't need to escalate further. Dylan's pride warred with his pain, but he chose to walk away, muttering threats as he limped off with Luke and Ryan in tow. Sophie exhaled, her hands trembling, her admiration for Mia evident. Mia felt no triumph, only a quiet resolve. She had protected herself and Sophie, but the cost was another layer of her secret exposed. As they walked to the bus stop, Sophie's gratitude was silent but profound, her trust in Mia a bond forged in shared defiance. The next day, the school was a cauldron of rumors. Dylan's defeat spread like wildfire, each retelling more exaggerated than the last. Some students called Mia a vigilante. Others whispered she was dangerous, a threat to the school's order. The football team's hostility deepened, but Nate's silence held them in check. Mia sensed the principal, Mr. Hargrove, watching her more closely, his disapproval evident in his clipped greetings. Sophie's group rallied around her, their loyalty a shield against the school's judgment. During lunch, a younger girl, Ellie, approached Mia's table, her voice barely a whisper as she thanked Mia for inspiring her to stand up to a bully in her math class. Mia's heart swelled, the weight of her actions shifting from burden to purpose. The self-defense sessions became a sanctuary. Mia expanded the lessons, teaching not just techniques but strategies for de-escalation, for recognizing danger before it struck. The group grew to 20, their laughter and sweat filling the chilly air behind the gym. Mia's confidence as a teacher grew, her voice steady as she guided her peers. She saw the change in them. Girls who once shrank from conflict now walked with purpose. Boys who had mocked her now listened with respect. Even Nate appeared one day, lingering at the edge of the group, his presence a quiet acknowledgement of his own transformation. Mia didn't invite him in, but she didn't turn him away, sensing his struggle to redefine himself. The turning point came in early December, when a local martial arts academy visited Willow Creek High for a demonstration. The event was meant to promote their after-school program, but it drew a crowd eager to see Mia. Rumors of her skills had reached beyond the school, fueled by the bus stop and bike rack incidents. The academy's head instructor, a wiry woman named Coach Lena, invited students to spar with her team. The crowd's eyes turned to Mia, their chants of her name echoing in the gym. Mia hesitated, her father's plea for normalcy warring with the fire in her veins. Sophie's encouraging nod tipped the scale. Mia stepped forward, her movements deliberate, her denim jacket left on the bleachers. The sparring match was controlled, with protective gear and strict rules, no head strikes, no excessive force. Mia's opponent was a college freshman, a lean fighter with 2 years of competitive experience. The gym fell silent as they faced off, the air thick with anticipation. The freshman moved first, her jabs quick and precise, testing Mia's defenses. Mia responded with calm precision, her blocks fluid, her counters measured. She dodged a kick, redirecting the freshman's momentum with a subtle push, sending her off balance. In a flash, Mia closed the distance, her arm hooking the freshman's leg, executing a clean takedown. The crowd erupted, their cheers shaking the rafters. Coach Lena's eyes widened, her respect evident as she approached Mia after the match. She asked about Mia's training, her tone a mix of curiosity and admiration. Mia answered briefly, crediting her Pittsburgh gym, her humility disarming the crowd's fervor. The demonstration changed everything. Mia's secret was no longer a whisper, but a shout, her skills a source of pride rather than fear. Mr. Hargrove called her to his office the next day, his stern demeanor softened by a grudging respect. He proposed making her self-defense sessions an official after-school program, with funding for equipment and a dedicated space. Mia agreed, her heart racing at the thought of her impact growing. At home, Daniel listened to the news with a proud smile, his worries easing as he saw Mia's purpose take shape. He reminded her to stay grounded, to use her strength for others, not just herself. Mia nodded, her path clearer than ever. But Dylan's shadow lingered. He avoided Mia, his pride wounded, but his presence in the hallways was a constant reminder of unfinished business. Mia knew he wouldn't let his defeat go unanswered, not with his reputation at stake. She trained harder, her park sessions lengthening, her focus sharpening. Sophie and the others noticed her intensity, their trust in her unwavering. Mia felt the weight of their faith, a responsibility she embraced. She was no longer just fighting for herself. She was fighting for them, for the school, for the girl she had become. As winter tightened its grip on Willow Creek, Mia stood at a crossroads. Her actions had transformed the school's culture, but they had also painted a target on her back. Dylan's next move was coming, and Mia knew it would test her in ways she hadn't faced before. Yet, as she walked home under the starlit sky, her breath visible in the cold, she felt a quiet strength. She was no longer the invisible girl, hiding her power. She was Mia Carter, and she was ready for whatever came next. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel to stay updated with our latest releases. Thank you for watching and have a great day, friends.